This is a demonstration of the Hoffman Controls Model 610 digital current monitor. This controller is used to protect motors from overcurrent or over temperature. The display shows the current flowing, which is 0 right now. I'm just have it on my desk and I don't have a motor connected. The exhaust temperature, 135 degrees Fahrenheit, which is simulated with a resistor right now. The number of trips and the maximum of automatic reset of trips it will do. I want to show how the system is set up. The mode button on the left will go to various screens on the controller. The first screen is to reset a trip, manually reset a trip. We would press enter to do that. I'm going to hit the mode button again and go to the next screen. This screen allows us to set the current trip settings, what current and other parameters we want for trip. I'll press the mode button again. Temperature trip settings. We can set up exhaust and oil temperature trips if we have the sensors installed. How we want to automatically reset trips and do external alarms. The next screen. Modbus, if we want to remotely connect over serial link and read or write parameters into the control remotely. Or if we want to reset the controller to factory conditions. I'll go back now to the beginning and I'll hit the mode button once, manual reset, another time, current trip settings. Once we get to a screen we want to change, we will hit the enter button on the far right. Now we can set the number of phases we're measuring. We can handle up to 3 phases. If I hit the up or down button, it will change the answer. 0 phases means we're going to measure temperature only, no current. Single phase or 3 phase. We'll stay with 3 phase. I'll hit enter to save that answer. Now set the trip level in amps. I'm set to 106 amps right now. I can hit the down button to lower that, or to hit the up button to raise that. If I want to set it at 110, I can just use the up and down to get to the right place. Normally you would set this current at about 6 to 8% above the motor rating, but that's your choice. What will happen is the controller will start integrating once the current gets above whatever level you set here, and if it stays above this trip level long enough, the system will trip. It looks at the heat generated, so it looks at the energy dissipated in the motor due to overcurrent and will trip an appropriate amount of time. I'm going to hit enter to save that. Phase imbalance, the difference in the magnitudes of the 3 phases, 10% difference, 11%, 12. I'll stay with 12. Do we want it to check the phase order? Is the phase ABC match the current transformers 1, 2, 3 as they're wired up? Yes or no? The up or down button will change the answer here. I'll leave it at yes and hit enter. So that's setting the current trip levels. Now we'll set the temperature trip levels. I'll hit the mode button. I'll hit it again. And I'll hit it one more time. Now I'm to the temperature trip settings. I'll hit enter. Alright, do I want to use an exhaust temperature? Do I have that exhaust temperature sensor set up? I can either go yes or no, up or down button to change the answer, and I'll hit enter. Now what type of sensor am I using? We've calibrated for an Omega 10K sensor, the various range of these sensors, and if you use that, you can set the temperature in degrees Fahrenheit. If we change the sensor type, this will be a positive temperature coefficient sensor. So any sensor where the resistance goes up as the temperature goes up, in this case we would set the resistance at which we want to trip, since we don't have a calibration table entered. One more would be a negative temperature coefficient where the resistance will go down as temperature goes up. I'll leave it at the Omega 10K, hit enter. Right now we're set at 225. Again, we can use the up buttons or down buttons to set this at whatever temperature. I'll set it to 240. Whatever temperature we want it to trip at, I'll hit enter. The oil temperature, we'll measure the crankcase oil temperature. If the sensor's installed, we can say yes or no. I'll go yes. And again, we've got the same types of sensors. With a positive temperature coefficient sensor, we would set the resistance in ohms or K, negative, and I'll leave it at omega, and enter. Now, do we want the oil to trip on high temperature, low temperature, or both? So there's our choices, both, high temperature only, low temperature only, or both. I'll leave it at both. So now we'll set the oil high temp degrees. It's at 175. I'll go up to 180. Hit enter. The low temp trip is set so that the compressor will not start running when the oil is not warm enough. So we can set this, I'll lower this to 50 and hit enter. So that's it for setting the oil trip temperatures. I'll see what else we can do. We have the trip, I'm hitting the mode button, temperature, auto reset and alarm. I'll go to enter so we can see what we can do here. The number of trips until a manual reset is required, and we're set to 3. I can go down to 0 so that it always requires a manual reset, or I can go up to numbers above that. I'll leave it at 4 and hit enter. Auto reset delay time, 5 minutes. This is how long before the circuit resets and the compressor comes back on. I can change this to different time periods. I'll leave it at 6 minutes. Hit enter. External alarm when tripped. So there's 2 LEDs, a trip and an alarm. The external alarm is just solely, and there's a relay available, a dry contact relay. So if we want to arm an alarm off-site or close by, we can use that alarm. So in this mode, the external alarm is on whenever the system is tripped. I'll hit the up button. Now the external alarm will be on whenever a manual reset is required. That is, if we're still in the automatic trip reset situation and it's going to reset all by itself, the external alarm will not come on, not until a manual reset is required. And finally, the external alarm will be on whenever there's been at least one trip and no manual reset. So it may have automatically reset, but no one has come by and manually reset it, so the alarm light will be on. I'll go back to external alarm when tripped and hit enter. So now we're running. If I raise the external or the exhaust temperature above 135, I'm just moving the sensor value. All right, we hit the trip value, so it is tripped, and right now it says the exhaust temperature is high. It's going to reset in 6 minutes. I'm going to lower the exhaust temperature so it won't trip again, and then I will hit mode and then manual reset, press enter. So I'll hit enter, and now it's resetting all the trips and it's ready to go again. If I, during the normal operation, if I hit the up button, I can see if it's done an automatic reset, what type of trip happened, the last trip that happened. If I hit the down button, I can see the current in all 3 phases, A, B, and C. I can also see the exhaust temperature and the oil temperature that the sensors are reading. So this is just a real-time display of all the sensor values. Let's look at one other screen. I'm going to hit mode and go to Modbus settings. If I hit enter here, then I can set the slave Modbus address. I'll hit enter. I can set the Modbus baud rate. 19.2 is pretty standard. I can set the parity. Again, even parity is pretty standard. And the last option is to reset the controller. If I hit the up or down button here, let's see, I'll hit enter first to go into that screen. The up or down button will say yes or no, so I'm going to reset it to the factory settings, and I hit enter. Then it will erase everything that I've stored in it and go back to the default factory settings. Thank you very much.